Let me share something with you that might challenge everything you think you know about attraction and relationship choices. There's a reason why certain women draw you in like a moth to a flame, and why others leave you feeling drained and confused long after the relationship ends. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And when it comes to dating, your reaction to the signals a woman sends, including the ones permanently inked on her skin, determines whether you build something lasting or walk into a fire you didn't see coming. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you ignore the patterns right in front of you, your soul becomes dyed with the color of wishful thinking rather than reality, and that is a costly mistake. Today, we're going to explore the 11 risks of dating a woman with tattoos. Not because every tattooed woman is a problem, but because psychology reveals patterns that most men ignore until it's too late. And once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. Let's get into it. Risk 1, impulsivity that doesn't end with a tattoo. The first thing studies reveal is that women with tattoos tend to score higher in impulsivity. Now, on the surface, impulsivity sounds fun. It means she's spontaneous, adventurous, exciting, and in the beginning, that's exactly what pulls men in. She's the girl who says yes to last-minute road trips, who orders shots at midnight, who laughs at rules, and turns life into a thrill ride. But here's the catch. Impulsivity doesn't stay fun forever. It leaks into every part of the relationship. That same thrill-seeking energy that got her the tattoo is the same energy that can lead to reckless spending, explosive arguments, and even cheating when temptation shows up. Think about it. A tattoo is a permanent decision, but often made in a fleeting moment. A breakup, a drunken night, a surge of emotion. That pattern, living for the now, ignoring consequences, often shows up in her relationships too. It's not that every tattooed woman is unstable, but statistically, there's a higher chance she struggles with self-control. Here's why that matters. Relationships require delayed gratification. They require patience, consistency, and long-term thinking. If her psychology leans toward do what feels good now, you'll eventually be the one paying for it later. It might be exciting at first, but when the dust settles, impulsivity becomes instability, and instability kills relationships. So, when you see the ink, remember it's not just a symbol of art. It might be a symbol of how she handles life itself, in the moment, without a plan, without thinking of tomorrow. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, no great thing is created suddenly, and a lasting relationship is no exception. It is built through patience, consistency, and deliberate choice. When you are with a woman who struggles with impulsivity, you are building on sand, and what is built on sand will eventually collapse. Let me give you a real example. I knew a man named David, age 45. He fell hard for a woman with multiple tattoos. She was exciting, spontaneous, and made him feel alive. They traveled on a whim, partied hard, and had incredible chemistry. But within a year, the impulsivity that attracted him started to destroy the relationship. She quit her job without a plan. She maxed out credit cards on impulse purchases. She started fights over nothing and then wanted to make up with grand gestures. David was exhausted. He had signed up for a thrill ride, but he didn't realize the ride never stops. The impulsivity that made her exciting was the same impulsivity that made her unstable. And David learned the hard way that excitement and stability are not the same thing. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future." When you are with an impulsive woman, you cannot enjoy the present because you are anxiously dependent on the future. You never know what she will do next, and that anxiety will drain you over time. Risk 2, the hidden link between tattoos and mental health struggles. This is where things get darker. Multiple studies in clinical psychology show that women with multiple tattoos have higher correlations with anxiety, depression, and self-harm histories. Tattoos for many aren't just decoration. They're coping mechanisms. They're marks of trauma, symbols of pain, attempts to regain control over a body or a past that felt out of control. On the surface, that sounds poetic. A tattoo of a bird after heartbreak, a quote about strength after loss. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If the wounds that drove those tattoos haven't healed, you're not just dating her. You're dating her unresolved pain, and pain doesn't sit quietly. It shows up as mood swings, sudden withdrawals, emotional volatility. One day she's overflowing with affection, the next she's distant, cold, or even self-destructive. Her ink might look beautiful, but beneath it could lie scars, psychological ones that haven't fully closed. This doesn't make her a bad person, it makes her human. But as a man, you need to ask yourself, are you ready to carry that weight? Because men often mistake intensity for love. They see her passion, her edge, her darkness, and they think, this is real, this is deep. But intensity isn't the same as stability, and if her tattoos are a map of pain she's still running from, you'll eventually feel that pain too. Dating a woman with tattoos means asking the question, is this art or is this armor? And if it's armor, is she still at war with herself? The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When her thoughts are colored by unresolved pain, her soul reflects that. And that pain will color your relationship too. It will seep into your arguments, your intimacy, your trust. It will show up in ways you didn't expect and cannot fix because you cannot heal someone who is not ready to heal themselves. You can love her, support her, and be patient with her, but you cannot save her from herself. And if you try, you will lose yourself in the process. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Do not waste your time trying to save someone who is not ready to be saved. You will only drain your own energy and end up resentful." Risk 3, attention-seeking that never ends. Let's be brutally honest. Tattoos are designed to be seen. They're visual signals, public statements, a way of saying, look at me. Now, plenty of women say they get tattoos for themselves, and sometimes that's true. But research shows tattoos are strongly correlated with higher narcissism and attention-seeking traits. Here's why that matters in a relationship. If her self-worth depends on outside validation, your attention will never be enough. She'll crave more likes on Instagram, stares at the bar, compliments from strangers, and when you stop giving her the constant reassurance she's addicted to, she'll find it elsewhere. Attention-seeking women often create subtle chaos. They'll post suggestive photos online while claiming it's just confidence. They'll flirt harmlessly in public and dismiss your concerns with, "You're just insecure." But it's not harmless, it's fuel. Every glance, every compliment, every DM is another hit of dopamine. And if she's wired for that kind of validation, you'll always be competing with the world for her focus. In the beginning, it feels intoxicating. Everyone's looking at her, and you get to be the man on her arm. But over time, it turns sour, because attention-seeking doesn't stop at admiration. It often leads to temptation. And temptation, when paired with impulsivity, is a dangerous mix. So when you see the ink, ask yourself, is this self-expression or is it an advertisement? Because if it's the latter, you'll never be her only audience. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you react to her attention-seeking with jealousy or control, you give away your power. But when you see it for what it is and refuse to play the game, you maintain your frame. And maintaining your frame is what will protect you from being drained by her need for validation. Risk 4, risky sexual behavior hidden beneath the ink. One of the most consistent findings in sociological and psychological research is the correlation between tattoos and risky sexual behavior. Now, before you think this is just judgment, let's be clear. Studies show that tattooed women report higher numbers of sexual partners and more openness to casual encounters than their non-tattooed peers. Why? Because tattoos are often a marker of sensation-seeking, the craving for novelty, excitement, and rebellion against norms. That same craving doesn't just stop at skin. It often extends into sexual exploration. Here's the double-edged sword. On one hand, this can make her magnetic. She might be adventurous, passionate, fiery in the bedroom. But on the other hand, that thrill-seeking comes with risk. She may struggle with long-term monogamy. She may chase novelty when the relationship starts to feel routine. The psychology here is clear. Tattoos are often an outward sign of inward openness to risk. And if you're looking for stability, you need to understand what you're signing up for. Because passion without discipline burns fast and leaves ashes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you are with a woman who is wired for sensation-seeking, your power lies in recognizing the pattern and deciding whether it aligns with what you want. Do not go into it hoping she will change. She will not. And that is not a judgment, it is a fact. People do not change their core psychology because you love them. They change only when they decide to for themselves. And if she has not decided to, you are wasting your time. Risk 5, aggression and conflict in relationships. Another surprising link found in personality research is the connection between tattoos and higher aggression scores. Now, this doesn't mean every tattooed woman is violent. What it does mean is that women with tattoos are more likely to be confrontational, quick-tempered, and resistant to authority. In a relationship, this shows up as frequent arguments, heated conflicts, and a tendency to escalate rather than de-escalate. That fire can feel intoxicating at first. A woman who argues passionately, who pushes back, who refuses to be tamed. It feels exciting, but excitement fades, and what you're left with is chaos. Conflict becomes the default language. Small disagreements turn into full-scale battles, boundaries are tested, and respect erodes. And when a woman is wired for aggression, relationships become arenas, not sanctuaries. Psychologically, aggression is tied to a need for dominance. A tattoo can be a signal of rebellion, of defiance, of someone who isn't afraid to break rules. That edge may attract you at first, but in the long term, it can grind you down, because love can't thrive where war never ends. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future." When you are in a relationship with constant conflict, you cannot enjoy the present. You are constantly waiting for the next fight, the next explosion, and that anxiety will destroy your peace. Do not trade your peace for passion. It is never worth it. Risk 6. Tattoos as symbols of trauma and unresolved pain. This is the darkest risk of all. Research in clinical psychology reveals that many tattoos, especially multiple ones, are linked to histories of trauma, abuse, or self-destructive behavior. For many women, tattoos are more than decoration. They are attempts to cover scars with ink. They're attempts to reclaim ownership of a body or a past that once felt powerless. On the surface, it looks poetic. A rose after heartbreak, a phoenix after loss, a quote about strength after betrayal. But here's what you need to understand. If those wounds haven't healed, the tattoo isn't closure, it's camouflage. And camouflage doesn't erase the pain. It just hides it until it resurfaces in mood swings, in attachment issues, in cycles of self-sabotage. You might fall in love with her resilience, with her fire, with her edge. But in time, you'll realize you're also carrying her ghosts. And here's the harsh truth. You can't save her from that. No amount of love will erase trauma that hasn't been healed from within. So, when you see tattoos, ask yourself, are they just art or are they armor? And if they're armor, are you ready for the battle scars that come with them? Epictetus taught, no great thing is created suddenly. And healing from trauma is no exception. It takes years of intentional work. If she has not done that work, you are not her partner. You are her caretaker. And caretaking is not a relationship. It is a job. Risk 7, a lifelong craving for attention. Tattoos are visual statements. They're designed to be seen, noticed, and commented on. And while plenty of women will say, I got this just for me, the psychology doesn't lie. Tattoos are strongly correlated with higher levels of narcissism and attention-seeking behavior. Now, in the beginning, this feels thrilling. You're with a woman who draws eyes everywhere she goes. Strangers compliment her. People stare at her ink. She becomes the center of attention. And you get the ego boost of being the man by her side. But over time, that craving for validation doesn't stop. In fact, it intensifies. She'll chase likes on Instagram, post more revealing photos, seek compliments from strangers because attention is her fuel. And the harsh reality, your attention alone may never be enough. Psychologically, tattoos serve as permanent advertisements of identity. They broadcast uniqueness, rebellion, sexuality. But what's exciting for the crowd becomes exhausting for the man in her life. Because attention-seeking doesn't end at admiration, it often flirts with temptation. And temptation is the doorway to betrayal. So, when you date a woman with tattoos, remember you're not just dating her, you're dating her audience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When her thoughts are colored by a need for validation, her soul reflects that. And you will feel the weight of that need. It will drain you. It will make you feel like you're never enough, because you're not. No one person can fill the void of a woman who needs constant external validation. And you should not try. Risk 8, a rebellion against stability. One of the strongest psychological patterns tied to tattoos is nonconformity. Tattoos are by nature a rebellion against traditional norms, and that rebellious streak might seem sexy at first. She's bold, daring, unapologetic. But in relationships, rebellion often translates into resistance. She might resist commitment, resist compromise, resist the structure that healthy love requires. Rules, boundaries, routines. The very things that make relationships last can feel suffocating to her. And instead of stability, she craves disruption. This is why studies show tattooed women score higher on measures of deviance and antisocial behavior. It doesn't mean she's breaking laws, it means she's psychologically wired to push limits. That can feel intoxicating when you're caught in her whirlwind, but once the honeymoon fades, you'll feel the cost. Because rebellion doesn't stop at society, it bleeds into intimacy. A woman who tattoos her skin as a statement of freedom may never fully be satisfied living by the rules of partnership. And if you try to settle her down, you'll be fighting against her very nature. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you react to her rebellion with attempts to control or contain her, you will push her further away. The only way to win is to recognize that her need for freedom is stronger than her need for you, and then decide whether that is something you can live with. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Do not waste your time trying to tame someone who does not want to be tamed. You will only lose yourself in the process. Risk 9, the shadow of regret. Here's an uncomfortable fact. Studies show women regret tattoos more often than men. At first, the ink feels empowering, sexy, liberating, but years later, it can turn into a symbol of mistakes, poor decisions, or phases of life they wish they could erase. And here's where it gets dangerous for you. If she regrets her tattoos, there's a strong chance she'll regret other decisions too, including her choice in men. That regret can breed restlessness, dissatisfaction, and the constant belief that something better is out there. Tattoo regret also hints at deeper impulsivity and lack of foresight. A woman who couldn't think long-term about permanent ink may also struggle to think long-term about permanent love. You'll notice it in small ways. She second-guesses herself, changes her mind often, rewrites her own history. What was once her proudest decision becomes her private shame. And that shame doesn't stay hidden. It leaks into the relationship. So, when you date a woman with tattoos, understand you may not just be dating her ink, you may also be dating her regret. And regret is poison to long-term love. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you see the signs of regret, do not ignore them. They are telling you something about her relationship with herself. And that relationship will ultimately determine her relationship with you. Risk 10, a higher likelihood of divorce. Sociological studies have shown that women with tattoos are statistically more likely to experience divorce and relationship breakdowns compared to women without ink. Why? Because the same traits linked to tattoos, impulsivity, risk-taking, nonconformity, don't mix well with the patience and long-term investment that marriage demands. At first, this rebellious streak feels intoxicating. She's passionate, fiery, unapologetic. But when the responsibilities of partnership weigh in, shared finances, kids, sacrifices, her psychology fights back. The stability marriage requires can feel like a prison cell for someone wired for freedom. Add to this, her attention-seeking tendencies. If she craves validation from the outside world, monogamy will eventually feel suffocating. That hunger for something new doesn't vanish just because she signed papers. In fact, it often grows stronger when routine sets in. A tattoo itself doesn't cause divorce, but it's a marker of deeper traits that make divorce more likely. And if you ignore those markers, you may find yourself blindsided when the fire that once drew you to her burns your life down years later. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future." When you marry a woman with these traits, you cannot enjoy the present because you are anxiously dependent on the future. You never know when her impulsivity will lead to a decision that destroys the relationship, and that anxiety will eat away at you over time. Risk 11, the drama never ends. Here's the final risk, and maybe the most dangerous one. Tattooed women are more likely to live in cycles of chaos and drama. Studies link tattoos to higher rates of sensation-seeking, aggression, and emotional volatility. Put these together, and you get someone who thrives in storms. Peace feels boring. Calm feels dead. Drama, on the other hand, feels alive. At first, this can be addictive. You feel wanted, desired, swept up in the whirlwind of passion. She texts non-stop, kisses like she's starving, fights like it's life or death. But over time, this chaos erodes you. You find yourself walking on eggshells, never knowing if you'll wake up to affection or anger. Drama becomes the glue of the relationship. Breakups, makeups, jealousy, tears, passion, it all blends into a roller coaster that leaves you drained. And here's the cruelest twist. The more you try to calm the storm, the more she stirs it. Because for her, drama isn't dysfunction, it's oxygen. A tattoo isn't proof of drama by itself, but when combined with all the other traits, impulsivity, trauma, attention-seeking, aggression, it paints a clear picture. She doesn't just have ink on her skin, she carries chaos in her blood. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you react to her drama by trying to fix it, you become part of the cycle. The only way to win is to recognize the pattern and refuse to participate. But that also means accepting that you cannot have a peaceful relationship with someone who is addicted to chaos. And that is a hard truth to face. So, there you have it. The 11 risks of dating a woman with tattoos backed by studies. Impulsivity, mental health struggles, attention seeking, risky sexual behavior, aggression, trauma, rebellion, regret, divorce, drama, and more. Now, does this mean every tattooed woman is toxic? Of course not. There are always exceptions. But psychology isn't about exceptions, it's about patterns. And the patterns here are undeniable. Tattoos are signals. They're not just about art, they're about psychology. They tell a story about risk-taking, instability, and an appetite for chaos that could spill into your relationship. The ink may look beautiful, but behind the beauty might lie impulsivity, pain, or self-destruction. And if you ignore the signs, you'll be the one paying the price. The truth is, men don't get burned because women hide who they are. Men get burned because they ignore the signals staring them in the face. So, the next time you're drawn to a woman with tattoos, ask yourself, are you ready for what those tattoos might mean? Or are you mistaking rebellion for compatibility? The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you see the signs and choose to ignore them, your soul becomes dyed with the color of wishful thinking. And wishful thinking is the enemy of clear judgment. Do not let your desire cloud your perception. See the patterns, understand the psychology, and make your decision with open eyes. Because once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. And that clarity is what will protect you from making a costly mistake. If you want more raw, unfiltered truths like this, the kind society doesn't want you to hear, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment with the word "I made it" if you've ever dated a tattooed woman. Share your story. Did you see these risks play out? Because once you understand the psychology behind the ink, you'll never look at tattoos the same way again. Stay sharp, stay aware, and never ignore the signals. See you in the next one.